fuck.
I hate everything.
Welcome back to the
This episode
Uppsala
was
podcast, and hopefully the first words you didn't hear were "fuck" by Sigvidir. Halloween is next week, so we're going to be talking about Samhain, Winter Nights. For Sigvidir, it's Alphablot, and how we came from, and like how to do it as a heathen. Like, can you still celebrate Halloween as a heathen? That's the question we're going to be answering in today's podcast.
Oh, okay. That's not where I thought we were going.
What?
Yeah, we'll be able to do it like
a heathen, and I instantly went a totally different direction.
Oh. Okay.
So did White Wolf, so I don't feel bad.
It's been a while for Rain Raven. I don't think he recognizes that quick of a connection to those things anymore.
Right.
Do people still do that? What the fuck?
I'm so
He seems
lost.
upset. I don't do it like a heathen. Do it. Do the
Oh,
thing. Do the thing,
tracking.
Rain Raven. Holy shit.
Bro, I was kidding. Now I think it's true.
I know. Wow.
Like, think 12-year-old boy. Like, oh, do it. Okay, cool.
Wow.
I'm doing
All
slow
right.
here.
I'm glad we covered that.
Yeah.
Well, good for you for not recognizing that right away. That seems like it's a positive thing.
Sure.
Sure. Anyway, Samhain and such. There's a lot of different origins to the Halloween, or a lot of lore to it. One that I kind of come across and read more into is one called Stingy Jack. But then I went way further back to where it actually came from. But Stingy Jack is actually an interesting story enough. It has a lot of like Christian ties because he deals with the devil, and then eventually God gets involved.
Most people
But it's still a good kind of wholesome story in a sense. I don't know if he's overly familiar with Stingy Jack or heard of him.
Nope.
Stingy Jack, and I'll just kind of try not to butcher it. According to the story, Stingy Jack invited the devil to have a drink with him. True to his name, Stingy Jack didn't want to pay for his drink, so he convinced the devil to turn himself into a coin that Jack could use to buy the drinks. Once the devil did so, Jack decided to keep the money and put it in his pocket next to a silver cross, preventing the devil from turning back. Under one circumstance. Under circumstances, he eventually freed him under the conditions that he wouldn't bother Jack for 1 year, and that if Jack should die, the devil would not claim his soul. The next year, Jack again tricked the devil into climbing into a tree and pick up a piece of fruit. I don't know why the devil would just climb a tree for fruit, but whatever. Some Adam and Eve shit right there. When he did that, when he climbed up the tree, Stingy Jack carved a cross into the tree bark so the devil couldn't come down. And he said that he would let him down if he wouldn't leave him alone for 10 years. If he would leave him up for 10 years. Well, eventually Jack dies, and God says, "I don't want the likes of you in heaven because you're stingy. You're not cool. Get out." But the devil, punishing Jack, said, "I'll stay true to my word, and I won't let you into hell." So he made him wander aimlessly with just a lump of coal to light for light, and eventually Jack's hollowed out a gourd, put it inside for as a lantern, thus becoming a jack-o'-lantern. So it became the Jack of Lanterns, and eventually a jack-o'-lantern, which we celebrate as jack-o'-lanterns. But that was kind of interesting. It's obviously it's not heathen almost in any way, but it was a kind of an interesting story.
Yeah, I mean, it's some history that goes into Halloween and where it came from. My research that I was doing was like where did Samhain, so it's spelled Samhain. Some people say Samhain or Samhan, but it's Samhain. That's how you pronounce it. But it's originally a 3-day Celtic pagan festival from my research that I've done. That's how long it was. It was 3 days. And it was celebrated from the Celts, so Ireland, Scotland, UK, that region. Not all of Scandinavia, but Samhain literally translated from Irish means summer's end. So it's the transitional period from summer into fall, winter. But yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. Some other things like that I saw were, if I can just find it real quick.
And I can expand on that one as well if you're still looking for some.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, like I said, I like the Stingy Jack one because they came with a lantern, but that's whatever. This was actually interesting too because as Christianity kind of, I won't say terraformed the planet, they started taking away adaptations or celebrations or whatever else. And oddly enough, this is one of the ones that a lot of the Celts and Druids and, our ancestors as they were, didn't fight it too much because they're saying, hey, one of the popes, I forget which pope, like the third, it was, I don't know his name.
One of them, one of the many.
Yeah. He decided to kind of like shit on the community or the Samhain, and so he would call it hallowed Eve to kind of make it a hallowed, like hallowing of things, thinking that would prevent it. Really, they were totally fine with it, adopted into it, but they still had their celebrations their way, being bonfires, animal sacrifices, things like that. No human sacrifices were ever officially recorded or talked about in a way that would be taken as truth. But it's usually from common misconception that comes from anyway. After the fact, that clearly being a pagan festival, things like that, never made it to the Americas during the original times of our pioneers because it was such a uptight, I forgot what the word is, it's like a zealot group essentially that first came to shore. So they very much were anti, witchcraft, which is where the Salem witch trials and everything kind of evolved from eventually. But it wasn't until like the 19th century or something to that effect where it actually started gaining some headway in the United States. So a lot of places like, I want to say England and America didn't even have Halloween. They didn't have anything like that because they didn't want to have it tied to it. So it was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I didn't even know about that.
Yep. I think there were Protestants that first came over, if history serves me correctly.
Okay. And, I'm sure there are,
Puritans? Puritans?
Puritans? Yes, Puritans. That's good. That's what it is, actually. Yeah, so they want nothing to do with it. And then the reason it came over, I remember that, the reason it came back over in like the 19th century or whenever it was during the potato famine in Ireland. And so like over 1 million Irish came over or whatever, and basically just like took over the land and mixed cultures, things like that. And it's because they still practiced Samhain and all that stuff as they do. And so it was a very much like melting pot of this celebration of like, what do we do? What's this? They were still massive bonfires, animal sacrifices, and it started toning itself down to jack-o'-lanterns, trick-or-treating, things like that. There's a few different stories on how trick-or-treating started in the United States, being a lot of it credit to like one woman that was trying to stop the mischief from happening and controlling it in one day. But that's a little bit different. That's a little bit later on. But it started coming back because of the Irish. So.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, as Raven mentioned, I perform Alpha Bloat during this time. There's a reason. Alpha Bloat is traditionally a celebration and offering to the elves, in my case specifically the land whites on my property or in the surrounding area. The reason for this. Alpha Bloat is typically held at the end of summer, end of the harvest to the beginning of winter, somewhere in there. So some people do Disa Bloat or Mother's Night or whatever it is right at the beginning of winter as well. I choose to do Alpha Bloat. A lot of farmers, they worry about their land being frozen for too long, nothing being able to grow the next season, the nutrients getting sapped out by the snow or the rain or whatever. So the reason that I perform Alpha Bloat is to somewhat ask and say please to the elves and the land whites that surround my area. to keep the farmer's land fertile, to take care of the land itself throughout the winter, because I won't be able to, whereas them and their magic and their natural sense of Mother Earth idea should be able to do that. So I perform Alpha on Samhain or right around Samhain. And yeah, so that's my whole thing. That's why I do it then. I have no issue with the other ones that are typically performed around this time. By all means, do your thing. I just don't do those ones. Winter's Findings, which is the one that is mentioned a lot around this time, I prefer to do that right after I have the first snowfall in the valley that I live in. So there's actually snow on the ground. That's me finding winter, or winter finding me. If it's up on the mountains, it's still up on the mountains. That is never really going away for me where I live. That happens like a month in advance of any snow actually touching my house. So Winter's Findings is typically right after the first snowfall for me, and Alpha Bloat is done around Samhain or Halloween. So let's get into it.
Yeah,
Which one do we want to get into first?
I just found my resource that some history behind Samhain. So it's essentially it's the transitional period from summer into winter. So it's happened during the autumn equinox, kind of right after it. But it's symbolic because it's coincided with the end of a bountiful harvest season and the beginning of a cold and dark winter season that would present plenty of challenges. For me, I put elements of Samhain into my celebration, which is winter nights. So that's what I use. It's essentially the time where the veil's the thinnest, and it's time to transition from godly worship into ancestral worship. That's where my practice kind of changes. During the winter times, I'm less focused on making sure the gods are happy, or making sure the relationships growing or anything like that. It's more of it's my time to be with family, and then huddle down, and that's where I see. And I have a fun little story that I'll tell later, but when I did my first Samhain, I had a little experience with hell and my ancestors, so that was fun.
That's intense. That's rather fitting, but that's pretty cool. It does go by a lot of names, obviously. We'll get into both of our topics and more stories, because there's just so many around this time. It's kind of like the Odin of holidays by how many names it has. Like, it's just, this goes. So it's very easy, and I've done a few this year bloats that I've been a part of. I didn't perform them, I was a part of them and helped them with it. Those are pretty cool. I enjoyed that. I hadn't done too many. There's a lot of cool, very interactive things you can do with that kind of a bloat with the Mother's Night. That have I still have a few things that we made or did ourselves at the time. So there's a lot of ways to celebrate it. But yeah, we can do it either way. I'm sure there's going to come up with 1,000 different conversations, 1,000 different holidays and names. A lot of people, to Rain Raven's point, they see it as the thinnest veil with the dead. And so a lot of, especially in Celtic lores and everything else, is when they do fortune telling at this time, rune readings are really powerful, things like that. They're basically all the things that we have to put energy into throughout the year to kind of amplify are already amplified, and we just basically need to go along for the ride. To Rain Raven's point, instead of having to dedicate all of these things, with the gods and whatever else, it's there, it's charged, it's waiting for you to tap into it. So, there's a lot of cool ways of doing it. I don't know. I really like the way that some people celebrate it more than others, but that's their prerogative. It's pretty cool, though.
Yeah, I mean, there's more than one way to heathen. There's more than one way to do a bloat, or your practice and everything like that. I do several bloats that are different from you guys, and you guys do several bloats that are different from me in my practice, and that's perfectly okay. Um, but kind of it's, you know, as you said, White Wolf, they say a bunch of different names, but it's a lot of the same practice. You know, making the veils the thinnest, so you do more. Like as you said, the connection. It's you just have to. The door's already unlocked, and you just have to open it. You don't have to find the key, put the key in, and do all the hassle that you normally have to do throughout the year when you're trying to tap into visiting with the ancestors and everything like that. It's more of a just come in, walk in, and enjoy the ride. That's how I've experienced it, and multiple people have told me.
It's kind of like there's a poltergeist running around and just opening doors and cabinets.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's super weird.
A lot of people, because of that veil and their ancestral roots, whatever it is, it doesn't have to be anything that's like pagan, but a lot of people do set up like a spot at the table for one of their ancestors or whatever else, because to Rain Raven's point, it's an open door policy with the family, with the ancestors, stuff like that. So some people will get like pictures and a candle, and that's where it can be kind of come as I'll just say Wiccan-esque as you want it to. I've seen cauldrons, candelabra, all the really cool stuff, and then some do runes. But even when it's none of those things and it's just simply setting like your grandma's photo near the table, even if you're Christian or whatever else, it's kind of that bond you're feeling more than ever with that. So there's a lot of different ways to.
Yeah, and it's just not how we say it, like the Samhain's, Halloween, Winter Nights. There's another one that it's one that is very common that most, if not everyone, knows, but it's the Day of the Dead for the Mexican traditions. That's the day that literally the same elements are applied. That's where they talk to past loved ones, and it just shows that this specific day, October 31st, is dedicated to talking to past loved ones, learning or, rekindling relationships that either have died or have been forgotten from some time. So it's very common throughout the whole world to be celebrating ancestral, I guess, ancestral worship during this day.
So that's one of the things that I kind of want to get into, though, is we keep talking about how the veil is the thinnest, and I kind of want to talk about why that is perceived, why that is a very real thing. And that's because throughout the cycle of the year, I'm sure you guys have all heard us talk about the cycles and how all that works. Throughout the cycle of the year, you have birth, life, death, stagnation, birth, life, death, stagnation, and it just keeps going in this circle. This is where death is coming in. I think we talked about the wild hunt not too long ago, didn't we? This is traditionally where the wild hunt kicks off. This is where, especially Norse pagans, that's why they would shelter in place, essentially. Alpha Bloat traditionally was not one that was celebrated openly in the community. It was celebrated on the farmstead, the homestead, whatever. Strangers weren't really allowed, and that's why we don't really have a whole lot of information about what exactly happened during that ritual. But this is where that veil is the thinnest, because this is when the world, the earth, Midgard, the Yorth, whatever you want to call it, Mother Earth, however you want to go about this, this is when it starts to die. The grass dies out, the leaves are falling, things are starting to decay and die off. This is when our world is the closest to death. Some argue that winter, everything is dead. I argue that it's not, it's just sleeping. But this is when there's that pivotal point in time that we're the closest to it. Everybody is. Fortunately or unfortunately, the elderly seem to pass during the winter more often, historically speaking, and today. Kids are harder. It's harder to have babies during the winter, just for whatever reason. There's statistical facts on it. Winter babies are a pain in the ass. These kind of things are all part of that. But because that veil is so thin, that's where we get these spirits, these elves, these ancestors coming back and trying to rekindle flames or possibly guide you in a right direction. When we talked about the wild hunt, sorry, forgot what the hell it was called for 2 seconds. That's terrible.
It's affecting you already.
Oh, dude, it's been bad this week. It's already hit me to a point where I'm like, I don't give a fuck about anything. Fuck you guys. I'm heading in a hole now.
Oh, that's dangerous.
Have you had a bad week? I got a new phone.
That's good. I'm proud of you. But with the wild hunt, I don't even remember where the fuck I was going.
We're great at distracting.
I don't know. You said something about winter babies being a pain in the ass, and I couldn't help but realize my birthday's in 2 weeks, so that's pretty rude.
Did I stutter?
No, but on the contrary, is it conceiving babies during this time or babies being born during this time?
Being born. Conceiving is fairly simple right now. It's for warmth.
This is some COVID shit right now. It's just hunker down and let her ride.
There ain't much else to do in the winter if you catch my drift.
Another baby boom.
Probably not. Not with this generation of people.
Yeah, you know.
But, yeah, it's harder to keep things alive right now. I'm sure people with houseplants that live in a more tumultuous climate or a colder climate, you tend to keep your houseplants a little warmer and slightly farther away from the window because it's really fucking cold outside and plants die in the cold. Same thing happened with kids. Back then, they didn't have like the house with a furnace in it. They had a fireplace, but if they ran out of firewood, guess what? And you couldn't really eat as well, and so mom might not have the milk to sustain a baby, and if the baby's too cold, it has major issues. If a baby gets sick because it's cold, it dies. It's old people, they get slightly sick, they get the common cold, they die,
and it just wrecks them.
Yeah, it's terrible. But this is that point in time where that veil is the thinnest, and that's where the wild hunt starts to come in and go, okay, we're going to start taking people now. We've come back around. And the ancestors may be preparing you for that. But that veil is the thinnest right now because the world is close to death's door.
So, I want to just clarify that this is like the northern hemisphere. This is, it's going from fall into winter. But if you're in the southern hemisphere, it's around April 30th, because that's when you go from fall into winter during the month and everything like that. So it's not just this day. It actually happens twice a year. It's just, based on which hemisphere you're on, because that's how the world works. So just making that clarification. But we're all based out in the north, so we're just going to do with us. If you're from the southern hemisphere, just add or subtract 6 months from
just
all our podcasts.
Midsummer episode. Go to the midsummer episode and ride that one through. I've traveled during this time from one to the other. It's mind fuck. I'm like, okay, it's gonna get wild, huh? I gotta do this and this, and then I'm like, why is it so sunny and nice? It was so hard for me to wrap my head around. My little guilty brain kind of melted. But yes.
Cool. But yeah, that's part of the reason why. Because the veil is thinnest, because the Earth in the northern hemisphere is trying to die right now.
And I'll usually be the first one to come out and say, fuck the wild hunt. But it's true, and it's a really like gothy way of like making it a lore type thing of like, oh, why is the veil thin? Why is this thinner? Why is it colder? Because Odin and his team are all running around trampling that veil and just making death everywhere. And so Valkyries are just on their asses trying to keep up. At the same time, you don't necessarily go to any of the halls if you're claimed by the wild hunt. So it's this very tumultuous wandering spirits, things like that. Another reason that I saw when I was reading the other day about everything was lanterns or jack-o'-lanterns, things like that, were made to deter lost spirits and or guide them. So a lot of lost spirits at this time, being claimed by the wild hunt, are wandering, confused, lost, and alone, and they are either welcome in by this image or not. And it could be where it became from like a squash to like a face to scare them away if they were not good.
Yeah, I want to say that's like where it came from, like dressing up in like scary outfits along with scary faces on pumpkins. It's as a deterrent from unwelcomed spirits and everything like that. I want to say that's where it came from back in history.
Yeah, that's where the Samhain festival started. This was when the veil to hell and demons and ghouls and monsters would come out. So people would wear terrifying masks, like goat blood soaked, hollowed out eye socket looking masks to blend in with said demons, ghouls, and monsters so that they weren't killed. That's where the tradition of dressing up came from. And now we have little kids running around as Mario or Princess Elsa, and all the monsters, demons, and ghouls are just running around like there's fucking candy-coated snacks out here? Holy shit.
So you're telling me I can't be a sexy nurse?
I never said that. I'd love to see it, actually. Let's do this.
I almost put my costume on for this podcast and just like cute on the video without having to and it's like a lot. Layers, it's a nightmare, but it's not anything scary at all. It's a fucking pirate, but it's intense. It was like a $400 outfit, so it wasn't crazy. But I almost did that just to shit on it because it was funny.
Yeah,
we should have.
Which segues into
mine's a blow up, so I can't really wear that.
I've seen yours. It was dope.
I can't wait. It's amazing.
It's funny because they take up like the face would take up like the entire screen, and you'd be like behind it, muffled because it's a balloon.
Yeah. Have you seen this sick video?
Yeah, I saw your post on Facebook.
Okay. Yeah, it's me and my family are doing dinosaurs and everything like that, and everyone is being dinosaurs, and I'm riding a skeletal dinosaur. So if we take my costume, riding a skeletal dinosaur, in terms with Samhain and the demons and everything come up, how do you think they would react to me? I just riding a dinosaur. Would they be able to tell it's a blow up, or
I don't. I would hope so.
Yeah.
But then again, the veil's this. Okay, we're getting into this now.
Yeah. I mean, that's the point.
Being thin, the veil being thin does not mean it's clear as day. This isn't fucking Supernatural where the fucking vampires come out on Halloween and eat. That's not what the veil... Well, they do, but I'll give you that one. They do that. And I 100% believe in vampires. I'll say that on record right now.
Now they sparkle, and they sparkle in the sun.
Maybe up where you're at, you fucking losers.
Yeah, they're the Gucci of vampire.
Yeah, they're the fucking glitter bomb of nature. But yeah, I'll say that openly. I believe that vampires and werewolves and all the monsters in the world actually exist. I will happily debate with anyone who says otherwise. But that's not necessarily what that means. When we talk about the spirits, they're going to see things. It's almost like looking through a mirage from what I've read and understood from people's experiences on the other side of the veil, like near death or just after death and coming back to life, and seeing people around them, like those out-of-body experiences. You can find them online. But reading a few of those and studying this idea, it's almost like you're looking through a mirage. Like, you know, when you're driving and the heat's coming off the road and everything's wavy? It's like that, but on steroids. You can see things, but it's not necessarily clear. There was one guy, I don't remember who it was. I can't find it anymore. I actually went looking this week for it in preparation for this. But he had an out-of-body experience and said the only people that were clear to him were his family, like blood relatives, which got me thinking about it. This was like 2 years ago when I first read it. I tried looking for it again. But he said that the only people he could see clearly were his family. Everyone else was like looking through wavy glass. Like, you know, the glass walls, like the shower walls?
Yeah.
It was just completely blurred out. But his family he could see clearly, which is where I think possibly the ancestral idea of this and how you can find your ancestor during this time, or they can find you, is because you're the only one that they would see clearly. You and blood relatives of that individual, which is kind of a cool, crazy cool idea.
Yeah, I mean,
Also,
I can personally attest to that. You know, when I had my experience, like, people were, back when I was in Korea, they were, we had this ritual of like diving deep into hell, and then people would see all sorts of people, ancestrals or past loved ones.
okay.
For myself, I saw my great grandfather with his arm around my lost daughter that I would have had, and hell right next to him. It was like hell was, the goddess was taking time out of her day on her busiest day, arguably, and bringing me my loved ones and giving me some reassurance that they're on the good side, if anything.
That's a really cool UPG experience.
Oh my, I was in tears. And people, like, because we kept on going, it was like a good 40-minute ritual of a walking ritual. And when, you know, I came back and I ascended back to Midgard, it was something that I will hold to the rest of my life. And I told my wife about it, and she also agrees that if our daughter was born, it would have been a daughter. We don't know for fact, but from her experience with you know, messages and everything like that, along with mine, kind of confirmed that we would have had a daughter.
That's really cool. I'm glad you got to have that experience.
I'm getting all teary-eyed just thinking about it and remembering. It's something that I wish everyone can experience, but in your own way.
That kind of stuff's intense. Like it to your point, it never leaves you. And talking about it happens to me all the time when I'm at rituals. I've fully, I think I already said this on one of them, fully wept in front of an entire congregation of people that I was doing a bloat for, and went to them individually and had to talk to them as part of the bloat, as part of the ritual. And I was just a blubbering mess. Like, it was a nightmare. It was great. It was so powerful. And everyone was like, holy crap, because they felt the intensity. And it wasn't what I was saying. It was just what was going on in my mind that I had experienced before. And it was all just kind of coming to fruition. And I was still doing everything I was doing. And I was thanking them and talking to them individually. And it was a really good one. That night, there were like 4 babies that were made. And like, they were like, oh, we're trying to have a kid. I'm like, say no more, come to this property, it is blessed by the gods. And they're like, nah, and they all had kids. So, it was intense.
Shit's weird, man. WYRD weird.
Definitely weird.
No, but it sounds freaking cool. I've always enjoyed this holiday, this celebration.
Okay, so that's what my segue is. Okay, how for all the layman's terms for all the fun stuff. Save it in thought. How do you Halloween, or how do you mainstream this time? Like, what does your house look like? What are your what are your practices? What are your family traditions? Things like that. Like, what do you do?
So I have young kids. We go trick or treating because who the hell doesn't go trick or treating? It's free candy, and then you can steal your kids' candy. We all do it. If you have children.
I was going to say
candies all the time.
dad tax.
Yeah, it's the parent tax because my wife steals it too.
Yeah, I still keep candies all the time on Halloween. It's great. There's walking around with a sack of candy.
I'm pretty sure that's just bullying in your case.
Oh, it's not bullying. They don't even. It's not even comparison. It's just possibly just straight assault.
So do
I
you
just take it.
do you show up in your Ford van and you just I got free candy?
And then you steal their candy and pull up to the next kid with their candy and be like, I got candy.
It's like a reverse kidnapping. I'm like, nice candy. And I run.
The fuck?
I'm the kid that got away. I took the candy and ran.
So maybe you shouldn't come over.
I mean, maybe. So I see. I didn't mean to interrupt you on that one.
No, you're good. So we do the trick-or-treating thing. That's just a fairly common practice here in the States. However, not so much in Utah. It's really weird here. Like, some people love it, and they're, like, all for it, and they go all out. Like, they'll have king-size candy bars and shit, and they're like, yeah, we got all this nonsense, and we love having kids run around in costumes. It's super cool, and we give them candy. It's great. Then other people are like, fucking witchcraft.
No, because the church controls your state.
Well,
A church controls the state.
That's what it is. Like, it's mostly trunk or treating there, and that's because they all meet in LDS or the parking lot and literally just have their trunks up. And it's a cute tradition. It keeps a safe environment. They can say Jesus and stuff, and then they get candy from it. So it's kind of a more practice to a different point in Utah where it does that. And it doesn't make it any less weird, even when you're a part of it. You're like, this is still weird, guys. Like,
yeah, no. So we do that. I sarcastically say, because I get asked all the time where I work, like, what do you do for Halloween since you're pagan and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, I'm in the market for a goat right now. I need a bowl full of goat's blood on my front porch. I'm going to paint the doorway, keep the spirits out. And they always, because I can say things, and I'm going to toot my own horn just a little bit right now. My sarcasm is fucking top tier when I want it to be. And I can be deadpan straight face and say some wild shit. I had a very important individual in the organization that I work for openly gasp and go, you wouldn't. And I was like, did it last year. What the fuck do you mean I wouldn't do it again?
And you're like, well, now I have to, so.
Yeah. And I was like, damn it. Now I got to go find a freaking goat. But yeah, so I joke about that kind of stuff. We decorate. We have fun with it. We hang little pumpkins and stuff. We do all that. But then, like I said, I practice Alpha Bloat, which is personal to the homestead, the farmstead, whatever. So we do that a little bit earlier in the day. Typically, I do not leave the house during that time. I let my wife go out, and she stays strapped because she's a badass. But she takes the kids most of the time. I'll go out occasionally, but the last couple of years, I haven't really gone out with them just because somebody needed to be at the house watching dogs and watching the house and doing that stuff. So I stay home, and oftentimes I'll end up meditating as best I can with the fucking doorbell going off.
That's when you just put the bucket on the outside.
No, I like seeing the kids, dude. It's fucking adorable. Have you ever seen a little fucking chubby baby in a pumpkin? They're adorable.
I just had a kid, so
Raymond
yes.
looks like a chubby baby in a pumpkin.
Fuck you.
the orange hair, big bug. He's just. It's like they took that photo and he never left it.
God's damn.
I would love to see a pumpkin big enough for him to fucking fit in.
We just saw some like 2 days ago. The regatta. There was a bunch of first responders in our city, and there's this lake, this big. It's like a man-made lake in the middle of the city, and it's a Tualatin City pumpkin regatta. Literally, one of my friends MCs it every year, and I just watched like 30 people race around this big thing in giant hollowed out pumpkins. They're all legit pumpkins. They grew up and they race around the whole thing. They're dressed like Captain America and all sorts of crap. It's great. It's hilarious.
That's some weird
One
shit.
guy got really close. They were neck and neck, and legit, he just sunk. It's like all these first responders are kayaks like shit. It was great. It was fun. So yeah, the pumpkins get big here.
All right.
They're on steroids.
I mean, we're not far from Halloween Town, the Nickelodeon shit, right? So maybe it's just that.
I mean, that is my hometown, so.
I know. I heard they're not doing it after this year.
Huh?
I heard they're not doing it after this year.
I think so. Or
I heard they're
there's
shutting it down because of all the.
I think it's a parade.
Whatever. But yeah, that's what we do. Yeah. I try to keep to tradition as best I can with the actual rituals themselves. But my biggest focus on that day is making sure that the spirits and the ancestors know they are always welcome in my home and on my property, in exchange for them keeping the property alive and well throughout the winter and possibly helping bring it back in the spring. Just a peace offering of, hey, I could use your help since I can't fix anything right now. I can't tend the land. I kind of you have to give it over to them in the hopes that everything goes well. So yeah, that's my biggest focus on Halloween is the land and the property. Dude, I thought there was somebody behind me because there's this little fucking reflection on my chair. I was like,
He's like right by you, and I'm like watching, like he's about to die. He's like, it's all about the spirits.
what a screwdriver.
Right? Like,
I've seen a movie
Yeah,
like this
that would go
before.
well.
Whatever. I got a screwdriver.
Hey, you're in knifing distance,
Nice.
so it'll work.
I mean, I got guns.
Rain Raven, you also. I'd say Rain Raven, you also have a family and children and stuff. How do you guys celebrate?
So I haven't been home for the last 3 Halloweens that we've had. Because I've been away at work for every single one. But for this year, we have a whole game plan. Last weekend we got pumpkins. We're gonna be carving them this weekend. Got 3 pumpkins. One for me and my wife to share, one for my oldest, and then a little baby one for my littlest. Obviously he's a little too young to carve, but I don't know, it's gonna be fun. We're gonna do that this weekend. And then on Halloween, we're gonna be dressed up as a family. We're gonna go trick-or-treating. We're gonna go during the day, like dusk time frame, because we all have lives for the next day. We still have to go to work, and not to mess on sleep schedules, and just try to keep it as normal as possible, but still celebrate. Spiritually, it's just like Sigvidir's. It's I have a plate open for anyone of that plans on coming to dinner that day. With the finest cuts of everything, and full glass. And I just hope they have a good time and being able to see us the one time during the year that is easiest for them, and just kind of celebrate them in that aspect. I don't see it as celebration for us, it's a celebration for them, and it's we do all the hard work so they can enjoy. It's kind of just like every other holiday as a gothy. It's we do all the hard work so everyone else can enjoy. I don't necessarily do Alpha Bloat as Sigvidir does during this time. I do mine around Marchish, because that's when it's starting to warm up, and it's my way of getting the spirits out of hibernation. I see it kind of like that. It's so that's when I do that portion of Sigvidir's ritual. Just wanted to put that out there. But yeah, a blessing and a welcoming dinner. So past loved ones or people that we haven't seen in a long time, they could come enjoy and be part of our family if they so wish be, or so want to be. I don't know. Words are hard.
I was gonna say real quick, you can do bloats whenever the fuck you want.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
I know people that do alpha bloat twice a year and do one around this time and one in the spring. That is totally fine. You can do that. There is no rule or regulation. Obviously, the equinoxes and solstices, those are kind of tied to a specific lunar and solar events. Those are set in place, but the other ones, go ham.
Yeah.
If you want to do a bloat to Sif, fucking random Tuesday in April, fucking send it.
I want to say we covered that when we did the Heathen calendar.
Yeah,
but,
I think we did.
It's a just reiterate, as you said, you could do damn near 90% of the bloats anytime during the year. There's no wrong way to do it. No. Like as you said, the equinox ones are kind of tied because it's seasonal and there's spiritual connection doing it. And then, Seeker's Bloat, for an example, I do twice a year, May, later half of May, and then first part of August. I do Seeker's Bloat twice.
Yeah. I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah.
Just because I don't want anybody to get confused. You see that we do things differently, but you can do it twice. You can not do it if you choose to. I wouldn't suggest that, but go for it. You do your heathen thing.
Yeah, and if you haven't listened to that episode, go back. And we try to talk about all the holidays during the year, but most of the time we just talk about the ones that are upcoming.
I'm sure we missed like 12.
Oh, of course, naturally. White Wolf, you're the most bachelor person of us three. How do you celebrate Heathen Halloween?
Let's clarify, you're childless.
Yes.
That is accurate.
You are childless.
That you know of.
Yeah. So, which anybody that didn't put two and two together now just realized that I robbed children and admitted that earlier now. Because I don't have children of my own to steal the candy from. Yes, no. I don't know. It's like bold to say I really don't remember a lot of Halloweens recently since I moved, but it's kind of accurate as well. Like I keep having this memory that I think was actually technically New Year's and not Halloween. But basically, I actually really do enjoy the concert trick-or-treating. Now, the thought of it being seasonal, I think is absurd. We just moved to our new place, and anything outside this room looks like the Addams family lives there. There's legit candelabras. There's floating shelves with cutout black metal town going through our house. Since we moved to this new location, we have a lot more options, and we are taking advantage of it. We have an entire coffee nook that, like this big contraption dresser, everything like that. She took out, repainted black or whatever, and just made it amazing. And we're both very into the macabre, darker, like magic humor, whatever you want to call, or whatever it takes place at. So to us, Halloween or Hallows Eve or whatever else is basically year. It's kind of our bread and butter and where we live. So for us, it's just exciting that we can do it a little more externally and not be judged as harshly for it. Like, we have all of it out there. It's always there, but we're just a little bit less judged during this time, which is kind of cool. So it's kind of nice to have that. I don't know. I don't remember what I did last Halloween. Growing up, trick-or-treating, it's always wholesome stuff. My dad was obsessed with horror movies, things like that. There is a really nice, or a really amazing place that books out like 2 years in advance in downtown Portland, called Raven's Manor, and it is possibly the coolest damn place you'll ever go to. It has just Halloween's gotta be nuts. That's where we were for New Year's, because there were still bodies hanging from the ceiling that were covered in wrapping paper. So it was like right off Christmas going to New Year's, and it has like real dead wet specimens everywhere. It's a full bar, really beautiful place. They do tarot readings, they do rune readings there, like regularly. They have people that they hire to come in and do these things. Very big around absinthe and all these different contraption drinks. So if you order a normal one, it has like beakers and things like that you mix. It's super interactive and fun, but it is a very, very, very pagan. Like, it is all it is. Like, if you don't know your shit going in there, you will be floored. Like, I would never take any of my family there. Outside of that, we again just Nightmare Before Christmas and go from there. Maybe some Bob's Burgers. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, like for myself, we still kind of practice the same concept. Is dinner times. When I reach out to ancestors during this time, it's generally, I like to try and reach out to those that weren't like the favored in the family per se, like maybe some outcasts, maybe some, black sheep here and there, because I do feel that way with my family a lot of the times in my life. Not just because of this, because of the reasons as well. But I've always been that kind of like, okay, let's talk to so-and-so. And what I see is, you're sitting in line to talk to an ancestor, and an ancestor that's the most popular, famous ancestor has a line a mile long. But if you keep working down the line, you can have a really great conversation, get to know someone that you didn't really know well beforehand, even if you've never met them in your family. And it's almost a me thing. If I bring in somebody that was essentially abandoned by the family, the likelihood of me getting to have that connection, they may have done that for a reason. It may not be the smartest of moves at times, but it gets you an interesting conversation with somebody you may not have been able to learn from your own family. They know the person, you don't know the depth. So I kind of like the idea of doing that more. And I've done it both ways in the past. It was just a little bit more of like an intimate kind of feeling when I invited someone that would otherwise, in the sense of, just saying it, would be homeless at this time of family wealth or welcome. So it's kind of cool to do that. It's almost always alone because, again, no kids. If I can make it work, I'll go to my cabin. 9 times out of 10, I cannot because of work. But I don't know. For us, it's kind of year round. This time, it's just fun to connect with the community in the same spooky sense, without having that stigma of like any religion behind it. When you're dealing with Christmas, you're dealing with these certain stigmas here and there. But I feel like Halloween or Samhain and all these different things are this umbrella of just camaraderie in a sense. While some, of course, are going to be the zealots in either direction, the overall theme, people would say the same with Christmas, but there just seems to be more controversy behind it than Halloween. So I enjoy seeing the community doing the stuff that we do on the daily, and they get all amped up, and everyone comes back with all these things, and they're like, the next day it's like Christmas for pagans. Like the next day they have all these cool trinkets and toys to play with, and all the Christians are like, this means this. This actually doesn't mean the Satanic Cross. This is actually supposed to be. It's like they learn so much and brag about it until the next week. Basically till their next church session, and then it kind of goes away. But until then, it's really cool because they come and tell me, and they're like, I have employees that come up and they're like, oh my gosh, this and this. I just rehired a guy that worked for me for a long time, left him back, and it was not like this at all when he left. Pagan earrings, like necklaces, all that stuff. Like he's like full on. He's like, yeah, and I didn't bring up anything about it. I was like, oh, those are cool earrings. He's like, yeah, I have this full Norse pagan set at home. You'll see a lot of different earrings and necklaces, and I'm like, bro, like, you just let me know if you want to talk. So it's really cool to see that like the community amped up in the same way that I feel every day, but can't express as well as major merchandise locations like Spirit Halloween and stuff. Like I can't really hit that level on the daily. So I like to see everyone hit that at the same time. So I could meditate. I mean, I meditate all the time, but to me, this isn't any different. This is more of like I like to get out and do things, and not in the sense of like mischievous or even like parties. I really don't like clubs. That's not my scene at all. But I like walking around town and seeing the representation of what basically goes through my mind every day. So, yeah, that's my Halloween.
Well, I'm trying to think of something else to talk about. So we covered like some history behind Samhain. We talked about how we do it, and I don't know what else happens during this time of year.
I'm trying to go back through I've been trying to go back through my clippets of like notes and stuff to see if there's anything that I like forgot to touch on. But I really just talking about like Crafty Jack, or I always say Crafty Jack. I don't know if that's accurate, but I just always just go back to Jack Skellington anytime I say Jack anyway. But yeah, it's just that it's a thing.
Yeah,
I don't know. What would be something outside of inviting destitute and or abandoned family members to dinner? What are some things that you would suggest not doing at this time?
There's a lot not
We'll
to
keep
do.
it as easy as possible. We always say there's no wrong way to do something, but then we also have these snippets of like, except that.
Well, it's more along. I see it as a don't recommend doing this.
I see it of like the Hitchhiker's Guide to Not Fucking Yourself. Because I've been there, and usually personally, when I go don't do something, it's because I've done it and learned from it.
Souvenir, let's be very clear. Have you been a hitchhiker that's fucked himself, or have you been in that situation where you shouldn't be doing something?
Arguably both. It was really cold outside, so I had to find some way to keep warm.
If you can listen, props, all right? But like that's like an elephant. Like yeah, that's intense.
You assume that's how it went.
You could just chop it off.
It was cold. It fell off. I got a replacement.
You guys can't have kids anymore, right? That all tracks.
Yeah. No, typically when I say don't do something or, hey, I would advise you don't do that, and these guys can vouch for it. I do stupid shit all the time. Because somebody goes, what would happen if? And I'm like, I don't know. I'll figure it out, though. So I'm going to go do this stupid thing, and I know it's dumb going into it. So I'm going to do it anyways, just to be like, okay, now I know why, and now I know what happens to you. Things I would advise people don't do on Samhain. Do not, okay, this one's kind of a hot take. Do not force spirits out of your home. Now, there's a ton of caveats that come with it. There's a ton of them. But oftentimes, and I see this mostly in Christian or Abraham, and I'll just use Abrahamic faiths, especially during this time. I'm sure. No. The Abrahamic faiths like to push spirits out during this. Some of the more devout members will outright deny Halloween's existence and close their door, turn off their lights, and put a cross on their front door and avoid it at all costs. Sometimes they're more like happy-go-lucky with it, but then weird shit happens and they freak out and call their religious leader and they show up and they have to cleanse the house. I would advise don't do that. Now, that goes kind of without saying in a pagan circle, but if you're on the verge of paganism and you notice some certain things, arguably, if you don't feel safe, do what you need to do. Please do. If you feel like something's there to attack you, get to you, whatever, causing issues, do what you got to do. But if it's just an eerie feeling, instead of fighting it and pushing back, meditate on it. They're usually there for a reason, especially during this time of year. But the second you don't feel safe, pull the fuck out, light some sage on fire, and smoke the bitch out. But avoid it if you can. Try to stay outside for some of the night. But don't stay too long, because, you know, the wild hunt. Enjoy it. Genuinely, that's my biggest piece of advice for this type of holiday. Enjoy it. Enjoy the festivities of it. Shop locally if you can. This is the end of the end of the end of the harvest. As I'm sure most people know, pumpkins get harvested right up until and just a little bit after this. And a lot of gourds or squashes do as well. So enjoy that stuff. Enjoy a pumpkin pie. Enjoy it. Feast with your ancestors. Have fun with it. But don't close yourself off in a traditional way. Don't lock your door before you go to bed. Don't be stupid. But yeah, like I said, there's a lot of caveats to that one. But if you feel like there's a spirit or something trying to communicate with you, don't jump to the worst case scenario. Try and communicate. Open up to it just a little bit.
We were talking how the other day, just walking around our community, on how fun a concept could be that could never work in our society of basically a literal open door, and everyone does, like, not every open door, but anyone that's willing to participate in the community does like their own little haunted house that just has candy or drinks or whatever else, and literally just, instead of going from door to door, like being welcomed into the homes and like meeting people and just having a good time with it and closing it off, doing whatever you need to do. We were talking the other day how fun it would be to have so many different themed like haunted houses, and also just like themed homes to celebrate it. That'd be really cool, but no way in society that couldn't happen without anything being murdered or stolen. So
yeah, no, that probably wouldn't work. That'd be cool though. Interesting idea.
So talk about things not to do. I've done a lot that I shouldn't do, and I do a lot that I tell people not to do. But really, when it comes down to it, it's kind of core tenets that I'm trying to get better at and not do, as I am on my glass of wine. Do these things and celebrate the community. Kind of what I was like, celebrate the community, be involved, have a good time. Again, I hate big ass parties and stuff like that, but like be aware of the situations and the joyousness, but don't get drunk. Like basic shit, like have them all. You can go out there and go crazy and have the best time of your life and still remember the next morning. I've learned that's actually more fun than having to try and remember 2 Halloweens ago for the past 2 years and not remembering any of it. So making memories that'll actually last in your mind and not just diluting your mind with pure chaos just to enjoy the atmosphere, that you could do just as well less. I'm not saying don't drink, I'm saying don't get sloppy. So
that's just a standard rule of thumb. Don't get sloppy.
It's so easy to do on Halloween. Door to door, adult trick or treating, I'll tell you, we'll get little Fireball or Jack Daniels. Kids get candy, adults get liquor. Like, here you go. So it's very easy to get sloppy on Halloween because of how gracious people are, probably now more than damn Christmas, on alcohol and candy and kind of those little gifts that you get through, the night. So it's easy to do. It's easy to do during this time because it's even more fun. It's all themed. Everything's bubbling. Everything's brewing. You can do that in February. So, just a second.
Very true. Very, very true.
As I drink my wine.
Sounds right.
Again, I do want people not to do.
So I've been reading up on trick or treating and like how it came. Like, are you gonna give me a treat or are you gonna get tricked? Like that whole situation. And it's been difficult trying to find like where the trick came from, but I found something so far about the trick or the treat part and like dressing up. And I wanted to say this. I'm just going to read this from the history website that I'm on. Feasting and games were important in order to keep hungry ghosts and fairies from entering their homes and stealing. The Celts also placed food offerings in front of their doorways. Hosts set places at the table for deceased loved ones in preparation for their visitations. When family took care of the spirits could grant blessings upon the family to help them survive the winter. The villagers also dressed up in masks to disguise themselves as ghosts when they went out because they believed spirits were attracted to the living. So it goes into, you know, dressing up and everything like that. You don't want to get picked up from the demons and the bad omens, on as well as, you know, setting food up and, you know, be welcoming to who's planned, you know, who's in the spirit, like who's planned their time the like whole year to try to come visit you, and then you turn them away. That's a big slap in the face. Be like, yeah, I don't want anyone here, even though I know you spent a whole year trying to plan and, you know, get ready to travel from the spirit world, or whatever realm you're from, to come visit me and my family. That's a real big slap in the face if you don't honor them in that aspect.
I agree, and that's why my whole premise of don't just shoo them out
Yeah.
and intentionally kick them out is a thing. Yeah, I do agree with that 100%. It's kind of cool, the whole candy thing, though. I forgot about that, and that's why I joke about goat's blood, because that was part of the original rituals that were done during this time by the Celts. Was bowls of blood were placed out for the demons and ghouls and monsters to eat or drink, and that's why I joke about it. But that really seems to irk some people that I work with, and I think it's hilarious.
Yeah, and it's just I'm trying to find more about like the trick aspect and like why it was a threat. Trick or treat. Give me something good to eat or you will get you know, tricked on.
Or smell my feet.
Yeah.
I believe that's how that whole saying goes.
Yeah, you know, you're right. Another funny thing is the day before is the Saints Day.
Which Saints Day? There's so many freaking saints
so
now.
The day before All Saints Day was known as All Hallows Eve or All Saints Eve. Samhain or Samhain was blended with the Catholic holiday and became Halloween, the attraction of All Hallows Evening. So with the church and, you know, the Catholics and everything, they would welcome past popes.
Oh.
You thinking, like, are you tracking my train of thought?
I think so.
So the church is practicing pagan traditions, which is not unheard of.
Yeah, I was gonna say, where is that news from? Like, oh shit! Wait, hold on, they do that?
Yeah,
They do that shit all the time. I mean, we shouldn't, but we could go into so many different things that they do. Just the Abrahamic faiths in general that are pagan in nature.
yeah, and how it's just, they demonize that aspect and it's like, don't be pagan, but they still to this day do pagan-ish traditions. But in, you know, on the same page, all faiths twist and steal certain aspects of other faiths, meditation, prayer, worship. It's all twisted to a certain degree. But yeah. I don't know if you were here, White Wolf, but
no, I had to take a phone call that I couldn't avoid from my office. I apologize.
No,
What was
you're
the
good.
last part?
So the Catholic Halloween is All Saints Day. So the thing was, do they welcome past popes into the church on All Saints Day?
So, from what I understand, All Saints Day comes from kind of what I said way back when the Pope tried to negate the celebration, and making it Halloween, meaning the popes were all more revered to have the Halloween take place. So, All Popes Day was basically, it'd be like called Gothy Day for us. Like, you'd be like, you actually fucking care about the Gothy and celebrate us. That'd be cool. But it's kind of the same thing with the Saints. So I think All Saints Day is more of like, I don't know if it's, I wouldn't think it's a celebration of the Pope or the I'm sure they didn't, but it would be celebrating those that are saints, and saints that will probably say, God damn, did I freeze again?
You've been breaking up.
Things happen here and there. And, so I hope the gist came across that I think it wouldn't be the dead, it would be the live saints, but I think it was Mother. But I think it'd be a celebration of what they did.
What?
Hold on.
Don't worry, White Wolf. We
Just
still
so
love
you
you.
know, it still shows that you're muted on here, but we can hear you. So I know something sucks.
Stop downloading porn.
Something, everything. I don't. I think they celebrate the live saints in that sense, in the combative version of let's try and get rid of Samhain. But that's not in any way anything I've researched. That's just my UP brain. Just the only things I've read throughout how we deter the pagan holiday. I think they went into the celebration of the Christian or Catholic version.
All right.
And for the record, that is all I had to say on that, because now I'm not freezing. I'm just done talking.
So yeah,
cool.
Other traditions have it. We just talked about the Abrahamic faith, the Catholic Church, Norse pagans, but also like all faiths have their own version, but it's all encompassing on the same view that the veil's the thinnest. It's time to talk to the dead, but when the veil's the thinnest, there's bad afoot, so be wary about it. That's kind of the universal meaning that damn near every tradition has across the world during this time of the year.
And there's a lot of very serious and very light ways to approach the subject, either way, as a practitioner or people overall. So just keep in mind what you're doing, and keep in mind the community impact you'll have to have even after the fact. On a very light way of talking about trick-or-treating and another origin story that is it's just humor, it's just comedy. But there is a show called Drunk History, and season 5, episode 13 talks about the Americas forming trick-or-treating. So the premise of the show is they get celebrities drunk and talking about like their favorite historical thing or whatever else, and they they get sloppy. That they throw up. One ended up in a bathtub with the guy that was talking. It was okay. But this one in particular is very funny. It's a very, very well-known and famous actress that talks about this particular subject matter, And this show is funny because they increasingly drink the whole episode. Like they just keep drinking, and the story just gets way, way more off topic or offhand. They keep pulling it back. So on a comedic version, or side of it, it's a very good episode to watch. It's wholesome enough. I mean, don't put your 5-year-old kid who's Mormon in front of it, but like it's fine. So that's a good way to kind of break it into it. It's a good episode to kind of have in the background, or if you are stuck at home waiting for trick-or-treaters, you're in these situations where you don't get to have such a cathartic pagan experience. Really hitting the episodes. It's what I love to do anyway, is find episodes themed on all my favorite shows. And just kind of run them through a loop. So at least in my background, I'm enjoying what's going on, but it's coming out with an underlying theme. And I feel a little bit more in control of a situation that maybe I don't get to do as well as a pagan that's a little bit more closed off or surrounded by others that may not let them practice as well.
That's a good idea. One thing that our family, I guess that's another family tradition, starting in like October-ish, Thanksgiving to October, we try and watch like the Harry Potter. I guess that's another thing that we do. That seems to be a thing between now and Yule. Is we'll just watch all the Harry Potter movies like in succession.
I mean, it's literally witchcraft and wizardry. Like that's
yeah.
And
then we'll watch like Lord of the Rings. Yeah.
So, I've never heard of this show, but is it like from Comedy Central?
I think so. Yeah, it is. Drunk History. Dude, it's so damn funny. Like you can be stone cold sober, and it's so funny. And if you're drunk with them, you think you're there. Like it's fantastic. Because they do like recreations, and the actors act as their own recreation in like who they are playing and telling the story of. So it's just the funniest crap because it's not scripted. What they do is they get what the person said, and they can make people act it out, and they only say the word. They mouth the words that the person's saying. So it's like a puppet that's just drunk off his ass, and humans that are having to say these things and respond in that way. It's so funny. It's a great show. It was unfortunately a long time ago, but it is hilarious.
Yeah, I might watch the Halloween one tomorrow. I just found it.
The Halloween one.
The what?
There's a part with coyotes and a cat, and I just can't. I want to watch it so bad right now.
I fucking love that show, dude. Like, I'll get plastered on like a Friday. I'll be sitting there watching. I'm like, dude, this makes perfect sense. And they're talking about like a fucking squid that ate a ship or some shit. Like, it's the story of Moby Dick. You're like, this makes sense. I believe it. And they're completely off the rails. It's great. But yeah.
If it wasn't canceled, I'd keep plugging it, but you can watch up until that season and then there aren't anymore. So, but again, there's a lot of fun ways and pagan ways, a lot of communal ways, a lot of intermingling religion ways of doing things. Keep an open mind either way. If a Christian or whatever have you that you aren't a part of a segregation of any religion or faith comes up and says, do you want to join me for this? Or what do you think of this? Like, really try and do it. Like, learn. Maybe make Halloween or Samhain a time of you learning and expanding your spiritual reach instead of just practicing a singular way. You might learn something. It might be the worst experience of your life, and you'll be pretty steadfast after that to never do it again, but that just reinforces your own beliefs and your own behaviors. Maybe you'll learn something new and make new friends and come to an understanding that isn't spiritual but is man-made, and grow into the society on Midgard as opposed to on Midgard throughout the realms. So be good.
So I'm not sure if we have anything else to cover, but I feel like we're just rambling.
Yes.
100%.
So just we want to. Any last thoughts?
No, I don't have anything.
Yeah, neither do I. Hope you learned something from this episode. It was kind of the same thing over and over again. But it's something that people don't think of when you're just coming into the faith and you're like, how do I still, is there a way I can practice my faith but then, still celebrate what the modern people are doing these days? And it's Samhain, Halloween is the one example that it's still kind of the same from the olden days. It's just been modernized with costumes of whatever you're wearing, or and then a candy, stuff like that. But the premise is kind of still the same from back in the day, I would argue.
It's one of the, in my opinion, one of the fewest, still kind of purest celebrations to its core. At your point,
Yeah.
like everything's may have been, for lack of better words, everything may have been bastardized, but this one's pretty adapted. It's not. It's modernized, not bastardized, essentially.
Yeah, it's it's the same. It really is. People still dress up. People still, go around. They just don't knowingly have ancestors come. And, on your, being pagan and everything like that, you actively know this is the time that the veil's thinnest. So you could take advantage of what people that don't believe or practice, they don't practice that. So take full advantage of it. Try to start reaching out and see who reaches back. But then, as we said prior, don't push away everyone. But as soon as you start getting bad vibes, it might be a poltergeist or an unwanted guest in that aspect. So, be wary, but also go in with an open mind.
I agree. Am I muted?
No, you're good.
I agree. Run with it. See what happens. Have
Yeah.
fun.
And
There's a
on
fun
that
time.
note, that's the new Uppsala podcast. It's a short one, but it's a great one. And next time you'll hear, what is it? The creation
one
of the
of your-
humans.
Areas, yeah.
The what now?
So that it's a previous story or a previous podcast I haven't posted.
Oh.
So next week is the creation of humans, and then the one after that is one of us is going, myself or Sigvidir, we're going to tell our favorite story.
Oh.
Yeah.
We've got my favorite story posted. It looks like, I thought.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Good.
So humans and then stories.
Yes.
Cool.
All right. Hell yeah. Sounds good.
All right.
Well, if I don't see y'all or whatever else, happy Samhain and happy Halloween, I guess.
Yeah. Have a good one, and bye-bye.
Bye.